cannot believe I'm about to say these words. I actually know what Kamala Harris was trying to say. She doesn't know what she was trying to say, but I actually know what Kamala Harris was trying to say. And that's rare for me to kind of defend her, but I'll do that in a second. You can defend yourself from a life of just continuing to slowly but surely lose muscle. I mean, to some degree. I'm not talking about going out and getting artificial hormones like HGH or something like that. I'm talking about getting more nutrition out of every single bite of food you eat. With grocery store prices going up, I mean, that would be a pretty good idea, right? So you eat a big turkey breast and you've got your 34 grams of protein. How much of that does your body actually turn into amino acids? Well, I can tell you. My friends at Bioptimizers took 243 separate experiments before Matt and Wade would release the product called Masszymes. I've been taking it for 2 years, and they finally freed me up to share it with you. Masszymes is a very powerful series of digestive enzymes that help your body digest food. So that turkey breast, that 34 grams of protein, bioavailability might mean that you're only getting half of that, maybe a quarter of that, depending on your body and how it works. They conducted a test, an experiment at Birch International University in Bosnia, side by side. On the left, people who weren't taking Masszymes. On the right, people who were. The people on the right who were taking Masszymes saw a 1,200% increase in the amount of amino acids produced in their bodies. Amino acids, and specifically branched chain aminos, are the building block of muscle, of proteins. They help your body maintain muscle and can even sometimes help you produce muscle. If you don't intend to be overweight your entire life and you're in a restrictive diet now, you have to have this stuff. If you've been through a restrictive diet, you're at a good, healthy body weight, you got to have this stuff to help maintain muscle. Lastly, it provides you genuine digestive comfort, and it's easy. You can get this done now. Go to bioptimizers.com/Todd. You will get 10% off a bottle of Masszymes, and in fact, all their products at Bioptimizers. Bioptimizers.com/Todd. Head over there right now. Stop letting poor digestion rob you of your full potential. It's bioptimizers.com/Todd. Let's start with this with Kamala Harris in a very, very tough interview with her dear, dear friend, Stephanie Ruhle, talking about the border crisis. And of course, we know exactly who's to blame for that.
There are people there that are stressed, that feel that they're at capacity. Communities around the country that have legal immigration, many have said, we're at capacity. And many feel like the government has said to them, well, adapt, sit down, be quiet. This is how it is. What would a Harris administration do for those communities who've taken in many, many legal immigrants but are at capacity?
Well, first of all, we do have a broken immigration system, and it needs to be fixed. And if we take a step back, months ago, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress came together with others, proposed a border security bill. That would have put 1,500 new border agents on the border to help those hardworking border agents who are there right now working around the clock. Would have put more money into stemming the flow of fentanyl, which is killing Americans around our country and devastating communities. Would have put more resources into our ability to prosecute transnational criminal organizations, which in my career I've prosecuted. Donald Trump got word of the bill, realized it was going to fix a problem he wanted to run on, and told him to kill the bill, don't put it up for a vote.
Here's the truth about that bill. It codified catch and release. So you catch an illegal immigrant, you got to let him go. Okay, caught you, have fun. It let in another 1.8 million illegals. It funded sanctuary cities. It funded the same non-governmental organizations who are flying illegal immigrants all around the country straight into swing districts of swing states. You get about 2 million of these people right now that the Democrats want to register to vote. Many times, swing state elections are decided by 20,000 votes. And this would have funded those same groups who are secretly flying these people around, taking them out of California, for instance, on $150,000 per flight and landing them in Texas. This gave lawyers to illegal immigrants. You had to pay for those lawyers. Do you have your own lawyer? It gave work permits to illegal immigrants. It did nothing to deport illegal immigrants. It provided absolutely no immediate wall funding. The asylum screening was incredibly weak. Do you fear for your life? Yep. Okay, cool. Come on in. And, of course, it gave $60 billion to Ukraine to support their national sovereignty. So what Kamala Harris is trying to say there, of course, is that it's Donald Trump's fault. Now, God knows what went through the minds of the MSNBC producers that they decided to have Kamala Harris sitting with one part of the blurred set behind her apparently being a kitchen and the other part containing a ladder and saws. I guess because she's a hard-working woman out there building greenhouses and such. But then she was asked another question by Stephanie Ruhle, and she took a lot of heat, Kamala Harris from the right. Doesn't know what she's saying. It's a word salad. Well, kind of. Except I know exactly what Kamala Harris was trying to say.
And assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars. And looking holistically at the connection between that and housing. And looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing.
Yeah, you get it? Transit villages. This is another vote-shifting scheme. It's another classic China model, fascist government and companies become one. Here's the model. There are all sorts of roads on which people can drive. So they constrain the roads. They create HOV lanes. You can't drive in those roads unless you got 3 people in your car, even though those roads are mostly open. Then they create bus lanes. Now, this is a literal act of insanity. When I was living in Seattle, I would have to drive from the south into the city, and sometimes I'd need to take what was sometimes called the back way. And this was through the Alaska Viaduct 99. And there was the HOV lane, then there was a bus lane. And I kid you not, one morning, I was coming into the city, and it was probably a 45-minute backup because there'd been a massive accident. And right next to me is the bus lane, and there are no buses. I actually created a video of this. And I watched for about, 10 minutes. Not a bus came by. And I said, I'm going in the bus lane. This is insane. And everyone else was dutifully, well, you can't go in that bus lane. And I drove to the bus lane. And I made it in. And then I talked about it on the radio show. And then the porn organization, The Stranger, the independent newspaper there that makes its money by hooking up people with prostitutes and sex trafficking, they wanted to write an article about this, that I was some kind of dangerous rebel. So I said, fine, I'll send you a statement. They constrict the roads. Then in Seattle and other cities like this, they started to install 20 mile per hour and then 15 mile per hour speed limits. And then they started to create these areas in town where you couldn't turn left. You couldn't get to an area except on buses or trains. So here's the swindle. Now there's the train line. And here's the swindle. The train line's going to sneak through these neighborhoods. Sometimes it doesn't even go through straight areas. Sometimes it does incredibly weird things, like it's going down a road called Pacific Highway South in Seattle. Then it takes a sharp left, and then a right, and then another right. Why? Because it went through and destroyed a school. That was by plan, to take the school out. Why? So they could have a brand new school. Why? Because that was incredibly valuable commercial real estate for high-rise apartments that would have a view of the Kent Valley. And then the transit villages. When there's a train stop in your basement and you're the laptop class, you ride an elevator down, you pop into the choo-choo, you pop out of the choo-choo. You go up another tall building, and now you're at work. But wait, this is low income. Sure. To begin with. They get federal and local state tax dollars to build low-income housing right along the train line, right after they seize that land using eminent domain. They steal it from existing landowners. Then they upuse it. And for about 7 years, those things are affordable housing. But there's this crazy thing about affordable housing in separate countries like Washington, Oregon, California. They're more expensive to build than normal housing. How do I know this? Because my uncle was one of the chiefs of affordable housing and was frustrated by this, and because a friend of mine in Seattle were in custom builds. And they would say, we got hired to build low-income housing. We use more expensive ingredients, if you will, faucets, accoutrement, lighting, etc., than we do in normal houses. They're better insulated. They're better insulated for sound. They're built as luxury buildings because after 7 years, they become just that. And then the low-income people go to the next area that the train goes. They go seize more land with eminent domain. And if you're a red state, understand this, please. These people are doing everything they can to spread their tentacles using transit with the great pitch of, we'll move people off your freeways. They take these trains into your neighborhoods, they build apartment centers around them, and then comes the federal dollars. Well, this is the perfect place for people who are on federal dollars to live because there's the train so they can get to work, even though most of them don't need to work. They import voters along those lines at the same time as the Biden administration and the people who run him have done doing everything they can to make it difficult to live rurally. They don't want us to live rurally. Per mile taxes are ways to make it even more difficult to live rurally. So I know exactly what Kamala was trying to say. We want to trap you in boxes and ship you around like containers. She just doesn't know what she's saying, which is pretty common, right? The modern babbling, as it were, from a babbler.